Hey, what's up? I'm Allie and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing kind of a mid-year check-in. Now, technically I'm going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag. Not a big fan of the title of the tag because I feel like a check-in is much more appropriate anyway for, like, I'm not panicking about my reading. Are people doing that? I don't know. I'm mostly going to be answering some of those questions, but also just talking about some of the stats so far that I have this year. I have read a total of 30 books. Now I set my goal every single year to 50 books, so I'm about 60% of the way to that goal. Again, I'm not too worried about reaching it or not reaching it. I surpass it, so not too worried. So I have read exactly 30 books to this date. Of those, I have read 3,922 pages and I have 169 hours in audiobook listening. The majority of my reading is audiobook reading, but I have been reading a decent amount more physical books, I feel like lately, more than last year. And then surprisingly, the majority of my reading is adult and not so much YA, and apparently I've not read any middle grade, and we are going to have to change that. The other stat that may be of interest is just the star ratings I've been giving out. I've been handing out 4.5 stars like it is my fucking job. 4.5s, like everyone. I've only had one 5-star read, and I haven't really read a lot of books lower than probably a 3, just because I've been DNFing like crazy this year. I'm like, if I ain't into it, it's gone. I'm not getting in a reading slump for that shit. Not doing it. Fantasy is always my most read genre. However, horror has snuck up and is almost right in with fantasy. Now, this is the main genre I would consider it because a lot of horror do have fantasy elements, but the main genre either being fantasy or horror, horror and fantasy are like, they're in a race to win. Fantasy has been the top one for me for the past 5 years at least. So we'll see if horror takes over this year. The best book you've read so far in 2022. So this one I feel like is hard because I have only given one 5-star. It is to Between Wrath and Mercy. Would I say it goes without its flaws? No. It's not the most perfect book. I don't think it has the most impact on me lifelong. However, it is probably the best fantasy romance that I've read in a really long time. It is an adult woman who we are following, and she is a mother and her daughter is stolen, and basically they're gonna start like a war over her missing daughter, which they should, and I loved it. What a great reason to start a war, okay? But there's also like some people coming back from her past, and there's like the bloody prince that, you know, they got some history, and she's a little nervous because what if he like doesn't help her, but also what if he does, and what does that mean? Anyway, I loved it. I love the characters. I love this world. I'm so excited because the sequel comes out this year. But as for like, I feel like the best book, like overall, like the most impressionable book to me that I'm going to keep coming back to and keep thinking about, like when this question popped into my mind, it wasn't Between Wrath and Mercy that stuck to me, even though I would say that was probably the most enjoyable read that I've had so far this year. The one that sticks out to me the most is probably Tinfoil Butterfly. This is just, it was so unexpected, and it is so action-packed, and it is gritty and it's dark, and it was just exactly what I was looking for. It's got horror-esque elements, but it's more of a thriller. Really unlikable main character, but like you get it. You're going through her brain and you get the self-hatred because you kind of hate her. So I loved it. It is about a woman who goes on like a road trip. She's trying to get to this place where her and her brother were headed, and she ends up coming across this young child and has to save the young child from their situation, and it is so good. The best sequel you've read so far, I've only read 3 sequels so far this year, and I wouldn't say I think really any of them are like amazing standout books, to be honest. Probably Where the Drowned Girls Go, it is probably in the upper tier of the books from the Wayward Children series that I really love, and I love that this had some new characters. We also get to see some new worlds, and I am excited to see where it goes. The Wayward Children series is about this these doors that open up to people who feel like they don't belong in this world, and the door opens to a different world that they might belong in better. The problem is a lot of times the doors will kick them out for either being uncertain or something has happened or just mistakes. And so this is about a school for those kids that have kind of gotten kicked out of their worlds and don't know how to adjust back to our world. So this one was so good. So I'm so excited to see where this one goes. But would I say it's my favorite in the series? Not so much. New release you haven't read yet but want to, and honestly there's such a long list. It's just such a long list. Probably one that sticks out is The Book of Living Secrets, which is about two girls who go into their favorite fantastical world, accidentally get sucked into this book, and they find out that it's more of a horror book than they ever thought. Also, Kekai, which is one of the pre-order books that I had that is kind of like a 5-star guess for me, and that is based around mythology. One that is coming out quite soon is, I believe, the Pallbearers Club, so I'm pretty excited about that, which is Paul Tremblay's newest one, and it is about some weird shit that happens to this guy when he was younger, and his friend signed them up to be like volunteer pallbearers, and then they like take pictures of corpses, and he's trying to like write about the weird shit that happened, and he's basically being gaslit into believing that they didn't happen. So okay. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Oh, I have about 3. One is Love in the Time of Serial Killers, mostly for vibes. I don't know shit about this. It's for vibes. Also similar vibes, just like Home. I'm really into red and pink. This is about a woman who has to return home to where her father was a serial killer. And then Kingdom of the Feared, which is probably currently my favorite series that I'm reading. So I'm really excited. I really want to do a reread of the first 2 and then read this one because I just love it. It is a fantasy romance and it is mostly vibes as well. And I'm obsessed. It is about a young girl, her twin sister gets murdered, and she accidentally summons a prince of hell to help her solve the murder. There's also Pinata, which is coming out, and that is a horror about a woman who I believe goes to Mexico. Weird shit happens, and she comes home, but whatever they found in Mexico has come home with them, and weird shit starts happening. Home is in like New York City home, I believe. I'm going based off of memory alone. Don't quote me on any of those synopsises. Biggest disappointment for me is probably Stephen Graham Jones's Night of the Mannequins because I love Stephen Graham Jones' work, and I just feel like I probably would have enjoyed this a little bit more if it had been a little bit more clear about what I was going into. It feels very misleading to what you were getting. It feels like a parody of like a Goosebumps book, and it is about a boy and his friends. They decide to play a prank by using this mannequin, and then he swears he sees the mannequin get up at the movie theaters and move, and then one of his friends is killed, and he believes that this mannequin is coming out to kill them all. First of all, there's only one mannequin, so the title in and of itself is a bit misleading. There's only one mannequin. There are no mannequins. But also what you get is it's interesting, and it was just a disappointment. It just wasn't what I was expecting. As much as I love Stephen Graham Jones's writing, this felt off. I don't know, it just felt very surface level for him, in my opinion, and normally I feel like he gets down into like the nitty-gritty, and this just didn't get into the parts that I tend to enjoy the most. Biggest surprise for me is probably Comfort Me with Apples, because I just kind of went into this on a whim, and I don't know why I didn't realize going into it that it is religion-based, and once I figured it out, I was fully expecting not to enjoy it at that point. I don't tend to enjoy a lot of religion-based stories, and this one is very heavily centered on, like, Christianity. Apprehensive, but I ended up loving it. I couldn't stop thinking about it for days on end. I thought it was a fantastic horror novella, and I've been super into horror novellas, and this was kind of the spur of that, so it like awoken this new need inside of me in my reading taste. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it's basically about a woman who lives in a perfect neighborhood, and everything was made just for her and her husband, and then she starts finding weird things in the house that are not hers, like hairbrushes and Bones. Favorite new author? Honestly, I don't think I've read a lot of new authors that I feel like I could consider a favorite yet at this point. A lot of the ones that I read from this year are ones that I've already kind of considered favorites, or I haven't seen enough from them to consider them a favorite, so I don't really have an answer to this one. I don't really have a lot of answers for some of the following questions, so I'm just kind of skipping some questions, to be honest, because I don't really have a book that made me cry, and most of the books that I read have been really exciting and made me happy. Most beautiful, yep. Most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received, and it is these beautiful editions of We Hunt the Flame. I mean, they're just stunning. I talked about them in my most recent haul, and they are just absolutely stunning. I'm so happy that I managed to get these. I love the colors, I love the artwork, and I think that they are beautiful. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? It's a never-ending list. I need to read everything on my shelves. I need to read everything on my Goodreads. I need to read everything I have saved on Scribd. It's a never-ending list. I'm working on a lot of different videos. I'm planning a lot of videos for ahead in the future instead of just like thinking of them in the moment, thank goodness, for once in my life. So planning some videos in the future. I feel like there was nowhere to fit this in, but I need to talk about it, and that's Bunny, because it's quickly become one of my favorites. It's a dark academia. It's a weird like psychological mystery type thing that's going on. It's got some fantasy elements, and honestly I just loved it. It is about this woman who is kind of like annoyed with this group of women who call themselves bunnies, and they all just call each other Bunny. And then she gets invited to hang out with the group and then kind of slowly gets sucked into what is going on. There's a lot of weird shit going on with them, and I love it. It's in the vein of Catherine House, which is one of my all-time favorite books. So I feel like I have to mention that here somewhere. It doesn't really fit in. Just like most impactful read of the year, I don't know. But yeah, that one is with me to stay. Fantastic book. I can't wait to reread it. I just feel like there's so much you can get out of it. Just so many different layers, and I was just my chef's kiss. So you need to figure out some stats. I need to figure out how many books I've acquired so far this year. I need to figure out how many of my own books are read and unread, because I would love to have those at the end of the year. There's just a lot of stuff that I need to catch up on tracking overall. If you have liked this video, don't forget to subscribe to see future videos from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!